"You're not walking through that door with that baby." My father's voice thundered across the front porch, loud enough for the neighbors to peek through their blinds. I was barely 19, my arms trembling as I held my newborn son tight against my chest, his tiny face scrunched up in sleep. "Dad, please," I whispered, tears burning the edges of my eyes. "I have nowhere else to go. Just let me." "Don't call me Dad," he snapped, his fingers stabbing the air like a blade. "You lost the right to that when you came home pregnant without a ring. You embarrassed this family. You think I worked 30 years, built this house just to see you show up like some irresponsible girl with a mistake?" Behind him, my mother stood frozen in the hallway. Not a word, not a glance of warmth, just that cold, hollow stare she always gave me when I needed her most. "I gave birth 3 days ago," I said, my voice cracking as my legs shook. "I was bleeding alone in a hospital. Nobody came. Nobody answered." "We told you what would happen," he barked. "Now deal with it. Don't come crawling back. You ruined our name. Get out, and don't ever come back." And just like that, the door slammed shut. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us, where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I stood there for a full minute, maybe more. My feet numb on the concrete steps, my arms aching from holding the baby. It had rained earlier. I could smell the damp pavement, and the chill crept through the holes in my worn-out shoes. I had $14 in my backpack, a cracked phone with no service, and one baby bottle left. But I still remember what I whispered to myself that night as I walked away. One day, they'll come knocking, and when they do, they'll choke on the silence they gave me. 15 years later, the sky was gold that evening. Thick orange clouds painted across the sunset like fire smearing the horizon. Our house sat at the edge of Ridgeview Hills, nestled in a quiet cul-de-sac where even the wind felt softer. I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot, sipping tea. My son, Noah, was sitting on the back patio with a girl he'd been talking about for months. He was tall now, smarter than most kids I'd met. Handsome, too, in that quiet, confident way. He didn't talk much unless he meant it. His presence filled a room without trying, and he was everything they said I'd never raise. Then came the knock on the door. I didn't flinch. I set the tea down, walked slowly to the front entrance, and opened it. There they stood. My father, my mother, and right behind them, Aunt Lacey, her husband, and cousin Matt. The same one who used to mock me at every family gathering like I was, some dirt beneath their shoes. They were soaked, faces pale. Dad looked thinner than I remembered, his once sturdy shoulders slumped. Mom's face was drawn, lips cracked. They all looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. "Rebecca?" My mother's voice trembled, and I saw the hint of shame in her eyes for the first time in my life. We need help." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Really?" I said, my voice calm, steady, not like before. "What happened? The Great Morgan family finally hit a rough patch?" Dad cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. "Your uncle pulled the business funding. Lacey's house was foreclosed. Matt got arrested. It's a long story. We've been staying in motels. We just need somewhere to land. Just for a few nights." For a second, I let the silence stretch, watched them squirm. Then, without a word, I stepped aside and opened the door wider. They exhaled, eyes filling with relief. But they froze mid-step when he appeared beside me. Noah, all grown up, broad-shouldered, well-dressed, standing tall in a pressed black suit, the logo on his jacket unmistakable. My father's eyes locked on it instantly. "Ridgetech?" he muttered, blinking. Noah gave a quiet smile and extended his hand toward him. "Hi, I'm Noah Brooks," he said, CEO, and Rebecca's son. My father's knees actually buckled. His mouth opened, then closed again like he'd forgotten how to speak. My mother clutched the wall, her expression drained of color. I watched them all, expressionless. And then I said calmly, "You remember that baby you said ruined your reputation?" Pause. "He built an empire, while you let yours rot." I didn't let them in. Not yet. I watched their faces crumble as the door clicked shut between us. Not slammed, just closed. Soft and deliberate. A message. Noah stood beside me in the foyer, watching me quietly, waiting for me to say something. I didn't. I couldn't. My hands trembled just slightly as I reached for the same cup of tea, now cold. I sipped it anyway. "Mom," he said gently. "You okay?" I nodded. But the images were already storming back, the ones I buried deep for 15 years. There was a night, maybe my worst, when I slept in the bathroom of a downtown bus station, my newborn in my lap, crying silently as I tried to keep my own sobs from waking him. I had stolen toilet paper from a gas station to use as makeshift diapers. I had no idea how to apply for shelter housing, no phone signal, and a coat too thin for November air. My body was still healing, my stitches raw, my breasts leaking milk that soaked through my shirt while men walked past the stall and whistled. And I remember thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe I did ruin everything. But Noah cried. And I realized something then. I hadn't ruined anything. I had survived. "Do you want to tell me what just happened?" Noah asked, pulling me back to the present. I exhaled. "That was the family that threw me away like garbage." He didn't speak, just nodded, then quietly asked, "Do you want them here?" "No," I said. Then I paused. "But I want them to need me here, just like I needed them." That night, while Noah went to bed, I sat on the couch and stared at the ceiling, the shadows from the hallway lamp dancing across the plaster. My mind wasn't here. It was 15 years ago again. To the day I met Raymond. He was tall, charming, reckless, the kind of guy who could say the stupidest thing and make it sound like poetry. We weren't even together that long, just 4 months. But when I told him I was pregnant, he looked at me like I'd murdered his future. "I'm not doing this," he said flatly. "I can't." And then he ghosted. I didn't cry for him. I cried for me, because I had to do everything alone. And I did. The next morning, there was another knock. I opened the door. They were still there. They hadn't left. Noah came downstairs with his gym bag slung over one shoulder, a protein bar in hand. He slowed when he saw them again. Dad stepped forward. "Rebecca, we're sorry. We truly are." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? You're sorry now? Or just sorry you're homeless?" Silence. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "You were right. We let pride destroy everything. You made it out. You built this." He motioned toward the house behind me. "We just didn't expect you to be the one we'd need someday." "You expected me to disappear," I said, voice low. "You expected me to fail and come back begging. But I didn't." "And we were wrong," he said. That's when I saw it, a flicker of something in his eyes. Not guilt, not grief, fear. Noah walked up behind me and slid the car keys into my palm. "You don't have to deal with this if you don't want to, Mom. I'll send them away." But I shook my head. "No," I said. "Let them stay." He looked at me. "Really?" I smiled coldly. "Yes, let them in." I turned to my father. "You wanted shelter? You got it. But under my rules. And don't expect kindness. I've already given all of that. And you threw it away." And with that, I stepped aside again. What happens next will be darker. The quiet unraveling of their pride, their discomfort in my success, the weight of every memory I had to survive on my own. But I wasn't angry. I was calm. Because revenge isn't loud. It's letting them feel what silence really sounds like. They sat at my kitchen table like strangers. My father, with his hunched shoulders and clenched jaw, scanned the room as if looking for something familiar, but found nothing that belonged to him. My mother stirred her tea without drinking it. Aunt Lacey avoided my eyes altogether, and Cousin Matt just kept scrolling through his cracked phone, like he didn't realize the Wi-Fi password wouldn't be handed to him. I didn't offer them food. I didn't offer stories. Just silence. And that silence? It made them uncomfortable. Noah passed through the kitchen, tall and composed. "Morning," he said politely. No bitterness, no sarcasm, just smooth confidence. Then he kissed my cheek and left for work. The silence got heavier. Finally, my father cleared his throat. "He's doing well, your son." "He built Ridgetech from nothing," I said flatly. "While you told me he was a mistake." Dad didn't respond. He glanced down at his hands, suddenly very interested in his own fingernails. Aunt Lacey tried a smile. "You really raised a good boy, Becca." I didn't smile back. "Not Becca. It's Rebecca now. And I raised him while sleeping in shelters and cleaning hotel toilets. No help. No money. Just grit." Matt laughed awkwardly. "Well, it turned out okay, didn't it?" I turned to him slowly. "Did it?" His face fell. Because the truth was, they thought time erased what they'd done. That success healed the scars they helped create. But all it did was give me the strength to make them sit in what they left behind. That evening, my mother finally pulled me aside. "We didn't know how to support you back then," she said in a quiet voice. "We were scared. Ashamed." "You were silent," I replied. "That's not fear. That's choice." Her lip trembled. "People talked, Rebecca. Your father had a reputation to protect." I held up a hand. "Don't. Not now. Not after 15 years. She swallowed hard. "We lost everything." "No," I said. "You gave it away. Piece by piece. Just like you gave me away." And then I walked away. Because this time, I wasn't the one begging for space. They were. 3 nights in, and the house felt like it was holding its breath. They tiptoed around the kitchen like guests in a museum, careful not to touch anything that didn't belong to them. And that was everything. Because nothing here belonged to them. Not the granite countertops, not the hardwood floors, not the calm. They hadn't earned any of it. That evening, Noah came home early. He dropped his keys on the table, loosened his tie, and nodded politely to everyone, then sat beside me like he always did. "Dinner smells good," he said, eyeing the stove. "I made extra," I said casually, not even glancing at the others. He got up, filled 2 plates, one for me, one for himself, and came back. The others watched quietly from the corners of the room, not even pretending they weren't hungry. But I didn't invite them to the table. They could have asked. They didn't. Just like I once sat outside their dining room door, holding my newborn and listening to their laughter echo from inside, so I let them stay hungry, because sometimes hunger teaches what pride never could. After dinner, Noah leaned forward. "So," he said, voice calm but cutting, "I heard you used to say my mom ruined your family's reputation." The room went dead still. My father stiffened. "That's not—" "You said it to her face," Noah said. "She told me. And I believe her. Because I saw how hard she worked to survive after you threw her out." My mom's lips parted, but nothing came out. "You know what people said about me growing up?" Noah continued. "That I'd end up on drugs, in jail, just like the fatherless kids they see on the news. But my mom made sure I never touched that path. She gave me everything she never had." He looked directly at my father. "And now, you're under her roof. Because she didn't fail." You did. My father's face flushed red. He stood but couldn't find the words. For once, he had no comeback. Noah leaned back. You should thank her. Every night. For not letting you sleep on the street. I said nothing. I didn't have to. Noah said it all. Later that night, my father knocked on my bedroom door. He stood in the hallway, small in a way I'd never seen before. I'm sorry, he said, for everything. I looked him straight in the eye. You're just sorry I didn't become the failure you expected. Then I closed the door. 3 days later, it happened. They were still living here. Awkward, quiet, trying not to be in the way. Like ghosts haunting a house they used to own in their imagination. But nothing they did erased the damage, and nothing they said reached me. Not anymore. I had spent too many nights begging for love they were never willing to give. Now I didn't need it. I didn't need them. But what I needed was closure. And I didn't know I'd get it in the form of the last man I ever wanted to see again. That morning, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. I watched from the kitchen window, my mug of coffee halfway to my lips. Noah stepped out of the car, but it was the man who stepped out behind him that made my stomach twist. Raymond, the father of my son, still tall, still polished. But the charm had worn off his face. Age and regret had settled in the creases. He looked tired, hollow. I opened the door slowly. Noah spoke first. He reached out last week, said he wanted to meet me. I blinked. And you agreed? He nodded. I thought you should be the one to decide what happens next. Raymond cleared his throat. Rebecca? I held up a hand. You don't get to start with my name like you have any right to it. His mouth shut instantly. Inside, my father had come into the hallway, eyes wide, my mother behind him. Cousin Matt peeking from the guest room like a coward. I turned toward them. Do you know who this is? I asked flatly. They said nothing. This is the man you hated so much. You threw your daughter out into the cold. The man you blamed everything on while doing nothing. To help me. Still silence. I turned back to Raymond. You left me when I needed you most. I raised him alone. Not once did you write, or check in, or send $1. He swallowed hard. I was a coward. I was young. You didn't care, I cut in. But guess what? I didn't need you. He didn't need you. And now he's standing beside me, not you. Raymond looked down at Noah, who stood taller than him now. Stronger. Noah simply said, I didn't come here for a father. I came here to see what weakness looks like. Raymond flinched. And my father? His face crumbled. Because the final mirror had shattered. That evening, I sat on the back porch alone, watching the sun set over the hills. Noah joined me. You okay? He asked softly. I nodded. For the first time in years, I actually am. We sat in silence for a while before he asked, Are you going to let them stay? I took a breath. They can stay. Just long enough to feel what it's like to be tolerated, to be ignored, to not matter. Then I looked him in the eye. But the day they stop learning, they leave. That night, as my father cleared his plate in silence, as my mother avoided my eyes, as Cousin Matt kept his voice low, they knew. They weren't part of this house. They were shadows in it. And me? I wasn't the girl begging to be accepted anymore. I was the woman they now had to respect, whether they liked it or not. Because I didn't just survive what they put me through. I rose above it. And now, I made them witness every second of what they lost.